Yes, good evening, people. We are back again for another show. And considering there's a lot going on most days, I thought I would bring on and do an Arsenal one, but I've just realised I haven't got my background. There it is. I thought I'd go red because we're going to be talking about Arsenal, and I thought who better to bring on than, of course, Tom Canton. How you doing, Tom?
Yeah, very good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm try to keep up with everything that's been going on because, to be fair, mate, it's been quite busy in my day job. And then everything at the moment just seems to either explode or then nothing happens. And today it sounds like there's a few rumours, not just Arsenal related, just in general, that a few things have happened. So I wanted to get your opinions on it, mate. So I thought I'd shout you, see what you're up to. And lo and behold, mate, you had the free evening. I mean, how does that happen with you?
Spontaneously, you text me at like a
Yeah.
perfect time. The missus decided that she was going to go to a Charlton pre-season game. Yeah, that's
Oh,
that's
wow.
the type of missus I've got. And yeah, so it was a perfect kind of timing. I didn't think I was going to be free, but I'm free. So there you go.
Listen, I would rather be a Charlton supporter than a Spurs fan. That's all I'm saying.
Mm, mm.
It could be a lot
Would be with
worse,
her if
mate.
she was, to be fair.
Honestly, man, it's mad, isn't it? It is mad. Um, Listen, let's talk Arsenal. Um, we're over in the US at the moment. We're getting ready for our tour. We've got the MLS All Stars. We've got Manchester United, and of course, we've got Barcelona. Now, I want to talk to you about some of the feelings of that and how things are looking in terms of what your expectations are for that and how important you think preseason is. But of course, because the transfer window is open, we're going to touch on a little bit of that soon. Now, I don't know about you, um, Tom, but I feel like there's going to be some outgoings before there's any more incomings. And I feel that there kind of needs to be that, if I'm honest. I don't really believe that we're going to have many more incomings before we see a few go out. Now, I think there's a lot of rumours about Arsenal outgoings, and I don't think there's any, if I'm honest, that I truly disagree with, other than perhaps a couple we're going to discuss. I think it's clear that some of the agents of the clubs some of the agents of the players, should I say, are going to be looking at trying to get rid of some of them. You know, Runnison doesn't look like to have a future at the club. Doesn't look like Cedric does. It doesn't look like Nuno Tavares. Lokonga, Rob Holding, we've mentioned. Pepe is being spoken about. And then there's some other positions after that, Tom, where I kind of look at Arsenal right now and go, this will now be interesting to see what happens to the futures of the likes of Balogun, Thomas Partey, and of course Tierney and Smith Rowe have been mentioned, Fabio Vieira as well. Perhaps some of those names we don't want to be seeing leaving Arsenal whatsoever. So I want to get an understanding of where you're at. Now, Saudi Arabia has taken over this transfer window, bro, and it looks to me as if Thomas Partey and Pepe, there are some rumours, are attracting some form of interest over there. So let's concentrate on those two first, because I think for me, Pepe, I've kind of taken an L on that one, Tom. £72 million. We're never going to get anywhere near that back. It was a signing which was before this regime currently. So I don't think there's anybody really to blame too much about that other than people that have since left the club. Um, what would you like to see happen with Pepe? Because I kind of feel like there's always been a bit of a player there. I think he took a lot of harsh criticism personally, and I, for one, was actually trying to stick up for some of his numbers and the fact that he did create when he came on the pitch at times for Arsenal. But I agree he needs to go. He's not one of Mikel Arteta's guys. He's going to have to try and go and find another club. What do you see happening with him, though, Tom?
I think that he'll become one of the final investments that Edu calls them, that we make. I just can't see anyone spending a transfer fee on him, to be honest. He's not an investment to really any team, knowing where Arsenal are at. Like, they are reportedly open to letting him go for nothing, and so because of that, it's just a case of like saving the £7 odd million that his wages would cost us this season, and it's better to just kind of cut the cord, if you like, and move him on to a team. But if it means cancelling his contract, which I think is what Arsenal will hope to probably try and do if they can't, which I don't think they will, get a transfer fee for him, it is, a massive L in regards to the club's, transfer records. A lot of money that was spent in a regime that was headed up at the time by Raul Sanyehi. Unai Emery obviously was the coach then, Pepe's not even the winger that he wanted. You know, he wanted Wilfried Zaha as the guy that he wanted to bring in, but we couldn't afford to spend £100 million with a lot of it being kind of guaranteed fees. So instead, with a structured deal, we went for Nicolas Pepe, and then we changed coach, and Pepe was not suited to what, you know, Arteta wanted. Remember that was the same season that Unai Emery was actually sacked. So
Yeah.
it's not like he had much time to even work with Pepe in the end. And Arteta wanted to play a system initially that was focused on kind of improving the defensive record, and Pepe's, you know, output defensively as a winger just is not there. You know, you won't see him tracking back, running back. You won't see him with the same energy that Saka finds himself in. Saka obviously started out as a left back, so he's got that experience of playing in a deeper position as well. So it's just not worked out. It's a sad end to that kind of investment, and I think it's maybe had a bit of an impact on why Arsenal maybe have not gone that big for so long until Declan Rice has come around. And I know they were willing to spend big on Mudryk and Caicedo as well, but it's been a while since Arsenal have kind of got over that £72 million hit, and finally we're moving back into the market with some big signings.
And do you think, Tom, when you look back at Pepe the player, do you think it's a position or a timing thing, or is it something for you that just was never going to work? Because I look back and I think Pepe was never 72 million. He was a 25 million pound player, 30 million pound player who did very, very well in France. We've seen other players do well in France, one of them being Folarin Balogun, funny enough. It just didn't really look like it was ever going to work. And I know that some people were blaming that on being unsettled by Arsene Wenger leaving, Emery coming in, now Arteta coming in, not really having a final position at Arsenal. Being given a chance, to be fair. A lot of people said he didn't get a chance. I think that's untrue. I think there were times where he was perhaps looked at as the first one to bring off, or somebody to bring on with 20 minutes to go. I do think he's had a couple of good games in an Arsenal shirt where I was like, go on, push on now. I liked him at Anfield. We lost the game, but I liked him at Anfield in that position up top. I liked him up top in the FA Cup final. I liked him on the left where he scored a really good goal against Wolves away. But there was always really goals that he'd scored cutting in from his on the right hand side on his left, and he swung him in, and he was great at that. But I kind of feel like it just was never really going to work for him for a culmination of reasons. And I look back now and I think, was he actually not that great, or was it just the culmination of stuff just held back his career for you?
Yeah, it's a tough. I mean, if I asked you how many appearances do you think he made in the Premier League, do you think you could be able to guess a number?
So he's at Arsenal for around 3 seasons, I suppose, was it?
Yeah, and obviously it was Arteta came
Probably
in
average
during his
30
first
games.
season.
So about 90 odd something, is it?
Oh, he made 80 Premier League appearances, averaging about 53 minutes for each of those appearances. So he had a lot of chances, you know, 80 games, that's over 4,000 minutes worth of football. And yes, he was brought off in a lot of games. Yes, he was brought on in a lot of games as well. And eventually Saka, you know, ousted him from the squad. I just don't think that he ever was the guy for Arsenal. I think that season he had at Lille, you know, he was brought in. He was brought in from Angers, where he wasn't like amazing at Angers previously, and he came in and just had an amazing campaign. And sometimes players just have a brilliant season and just score a lot of goals and just, you know, have momentum. Momentum's really, really important in football, and form and class are two obviously separate things. And that's why I think maybe you look at the Kai Havertz situation, for instance, and you think Arteta sees, you know, a foundation of quality he thinks he can get from Kai Havertz, whereas Pepe, I think, was performing at the absolute maximum for that season at Lille, where we then decided to invest so much money in him. And Lille were in a position where they had someone who's now at PSG called Luis Campos, who was a brilliant kind of like person at looking at talent and finding talent. And, you know, they bought players, sold players really, really well. Osimhen being, you know, the most famous of them all, now worth upwards of £100 million and is consistent in his performances across seasons. Whereas Pepe, like, just wasn't the same. I just don't think that he's ever been right for Arsenal, ever suited the Premier League as well. I think he's found the Premier League's kind of the opposition, the level of the opposition, a much higher step up from back to Liga this season. You know, he scored 8 goals, I think, but suffered with some significant injury issues as well, which kind of really curtailed the end of the campaign also. But it's just never been the guy. If you look through the whole of this Arsenal team as well, nearly, I'd say 90% of the players have now been replaced with players that Arteta wants to bring in. So that kind of told you the story. And even players that we thought would be mainstays like Kieran Tierney, are being replaced. So that's where we're at as a squad.
No, I hear that. I'm going to bring up this comment from Kev. I've heard this a couple of times on social media, Tom. Kev says, I'd give Pepe one more shot personally. He could be a useful squad player. Now, I don't think this is going to happen, Tom, but I wanted to ask you, do you feel like there's potentially a right wing option still available for us to go and select? Because I'm not so sure that Reiss Nelson's the guy. He's been coming on the left wing for most of the season last season. I know that he can play on the right. Let me ask you, would you rather be bringing Pepe on or Reiss Nelson?
Reiss Nelson. I just think there's, we've given this guy a new contract. There's clear talent in him, and he's clearly had impact on games. In the last recent season, won us the game at Bournemouth, came on against Nottingham Forest for Saka, who was injured in that game, scored twice. So there's clear talent in that kid. The problem with Nelson is that he's got these persistent injury problems, which is really holding him back at the moment. And he's, again, facing another problem. He supposedly might be back for the Emirates Cup game, which is good news. But I haven't had that confirmed, but that's a rumour that's going around at the moment. So hopefully it's not too serious of a problem. But yeah, if you're going to invest time into a winger, it's going to be Nelson over, Pepe. You've invested a new contract in the guy. There's clear talent in this kid. He's had impacts more recently than Pepe in an Arteta team. So yeah, you obviously give the minutes to Nelson.
Fair play, man. Thanks for your question, Kev. And that's what I'm going to ask you guys to do. Please make sure you put your questions in the chat box. Make sure you put a Q or a capital Q so that I know it's a question, and then I can star it. And you can ask myself or Tom anything in relation to the Arsenal. Listen, let's talk Thomas Partey, Tom. I really don't want this guy to go. I can't lie, because I feel like he's top quality. But the rumours are that he is probably going to be leaving, and Saudi Arabia are looking to be interested in him. There's a lot of rumours and reports saying that he's agreed terms with a Saudi Arabian club, and it looks like he's going to be the guy. He's also been left out of the US tour. There was rumours that him and Smith Rowe were going to be joining, but at a later date. So I'm not so sure if you've got if you've got any updates or news.
Out.
Oh, is that me or Tom?
Did I cut out? I said they're both flying out in the next couple of days.
There we go. I got that now. Yeah, they're both flying out in a couple of days. Brilliant. I obviously knew about Smith Rowe because he's been in the under-21s, hasn't he? But I wasn't so sure about what that would meant for Thomas Partey. Is there a chance Thomas Partey stays? Let me ask you that, Tom.
Yeah, there is. If Arsenal don't get an offer from a Saudi side, which is where I think he would go, I don't think Juventus or the other team interested have enough money to offer an amount that Arsenal would be willing to sell for. But if an offer doesn't come in that Arsenal deem worthy to sell him, they won't sell him. So it's only to selling him if they received an offer that was of a significant standard that they felt is too good to turn down. Now, I'm kind of torn on this because, we obviously have brought in Declan Rice, who I think is as good as Thomas Partey in lots of areas. And I think Partey is better than him in other areas. And I think there are differences to both players. Obviously, I think Rice has the highest ceiling. I think can become a better player than what Thomas Partey has been. He's also more reliable than Thomas Partey. He's barely missed a game for West Ham, whereas Partey's attendance is questionable for us. So that's a big bonus of having Declan Rice in. I would have loved to have seen them play together against teams like City or Liverpool, in games where you need maybe two of those types of players. I think it would be great to have both of them in the team. But I think that when you look at a player who's 30 and you've paid £45 million, if you get upwards of £40 million of a bid on a player that's available for 60% of the season and is at an age bracket where they're, the likelihood is they're going to start to drop off in terms of their not only availability, but also the output. And you've just brought in Declan Rice. And you could reinvest that money into a younger option that could be even better maybe than Partey. Who knows? Lavia is the name that's being talked about. Is he going to be better than Partey? I don't know. He's very talented at the age of 19. So, there's all the hope in the world that he could be. But I think an offer of that level would, upwards of £40 million is potentially too good to turn down in some circumstances. But there is an option for him to stay still, definitely.
I'll be disappointed if he goes. I will. I won't be
Mm.
disappointed if we bring somebody in of top quality to replace him, because I understand that
Yeah.
footballers move on. But what I don't quite understand is some of the fans that have absolutely lauded this guy and said how great he is and compared him to Casemiro and to Rodri and all that, rightly so, for the season he had at Arsenal. Now it seems that they're just wiping their hands of him and he can go. And it's like, who else is coming in the door? Now, I can understand if you want to revamp your midfield, Tom. And for me, Jorginho and Elneny would be the two that I'd be looking to remove and keeping hold of the likes of Xhaka, Partey, and obviously getting in Declan Rice. But it looks like we're going the other way with that. And Partey and Xhaka are the two that we're looking at moving on. Is there an argument, though, and a lot of the chat are suggesting this, and some of the people I've spoken to on socials, that if Rice is signing and Xhaka and Partey go, that we need two midfielders to come in because we needed one anyway. What do you say about that?
Well, I think obviously part of it is to do with Kai Havertz. I think he's seen as, a player that will effectively replace Xhaka in the starting 11. He won't play the same exact role, but he will replace him in the starting 11. So you are bringing in two and losing two. But for me, this window was about strengthening and reinforcing, not replacing. So if you're going like for like, I still think we need one more. Even if I felt if Partey and Xhaka went and we brought in Rice and Havertz to replace them, we still need one more, in my opinion. We needed to make sure that we reinforce that because Lokonga's not good enough. Elneny's only there for depth. Jorginho is good, and I like Jorginho. But again, I think we can bring in one more to add depth to this squad. So it was always for me about reinforcing things and not necessarily about, replacing people like for like. I think that there's this kind of talk around both Partey and Rice about kind of how they compare as players and are we downgrading by going to Rice? Look, for me, and this is going to come across blunt, but for me, the people that don't think Rice is in a similar bracket to Partey just haven't seen the guy enough. Rice is for me, of world-class standing. This is someone that's getting the most interceptions in the Premier League playing as a number 6 and not just like edging it. Like the next highest is 56. He has 63 across the Premier League. The next highest was 56, and that was Moises Caicedo, ironically, to get that number. His tackling, his reading of the game, his driving of the ball moving forwards, his availability makes him more of an asset. The problem with Partey is that you can't rely on the guy. And in fairness, Jorginho ousted him from the squad. Don't let it forget, at the end of last season, because Partey's performances dropped off a cliff.
Yep.
And Jorginho was brought in. A lot of managers I think may have stuck it out, but fair play to Arteta. He recognised that it was an issue, took him out, and brought Jorginho in. I think it was that Chelsea game at home that he made that decision to do it, and obviously we won that game. So,
and he played really well. Jorginho.
He did play really, really well. I think Jorginho is incredibly underrated just because of the profile that he is. He's not what I would say is a starter for a team that are going to be winning the Premier League, but he's certainly someone I think that could be the number 2 for a side that are going to be potentially win the league. I mean, he was a Champions League winner not so long ago and up for the Ballon d'Or and stuff like that. So it can't be too bad. I think that the dynamic between Rice and Partey, though, is an interesting one. I think what Rice offers you is top quality, but also offers you across the whole season rather than just 60% of it. We didn't have Partey for the home game against Man City out of nowhere. We didn't have Partey for the game away at Manchester United out of nowhere. We can't have that. So, yeah, that's a problem.
No, listen, I hear that, and you made some good points. You know what's coming next, mate? You want one more in? Who do you think it'll be?
Lavia is interesting because obviously Liverpool want him and also Chelsea are interested as well. And I think Chelsea potentially with their struggles with Caicedo could pivot if that proves that if Brighton are too stubborn and stick to the 100 million. Caicedo himself is also interesting because it's my understanding we've never closed the door on that. He's a player that obviously Arsenal really like, that they've bid for. And if it wasn't to be Rice, he would have been the player that Arsenal would have then gone big on a huge offer to go and get. But if Arsenal were to get a serious amount of money for Partey, and I mean close to £50 million potentially for Partey, it would be interesting to see if Chelsea still haven't agreed anything with Caicedo, and if Arsenal are, and if kind of the recruitment side are granted the opportunity to go in for Caicedo. But I do feel that a significant amount of money would probably be needed to justify another £100 million player. And I'm thinking like single-digit percentages chances of that happening. So I'm not saying it's likely. But Lavia looks to be the obvious candidate, it seems, at the moment. Is he the right one? I'm not sure, because if you lose Partey and you're replacing him with Lavia, you're not going to get the performances out of Lavia that are a Partey level yet. You might get him in the odd game, but he's just not progressed and developed enough to produce those types of performances. He's also not the same type of player as Partey either. Reiss is obviously coming in to play the six, and I think that the dynamic in the midfield is changing. We're evolving the midfield to have two more offensive-minded, it seems, players for the majority of our games in Havertz and Odegaard. But yeah, it's really difficult to think of Ibrahim Sangara as an interesting profile.
I've always liked him.
Yeah, at PSV, we've had interest when he was playing in France, so maybe that's someone that potentially Arsenal could go back for. But I think there could be names that suddenly, come out of the woodwork that we've not necessarily talked about yet.
Yeah, man. Listen, Caicedo's the one that I do want, but it looks like Chelsea have probably got the green light to go in for him. Although one bid's been rejected, it doesn't mean they're not going to go in with another load. They've got money for sure. They've just sold about 12, 13 players. So I don't think 70 million being rejected is going to put them off. And I don't think, if I'm honest, 90 to 100 would either. I think they'll probably get that deal done. Lavia is an interesting one. Probably a lot of money, if I'm honest, 50 million for a 19-year-old, but one that I do think has very high ceiling. And then I think after that, the names kind of die really at the moment. There's not really any obvious shouts unless you go down the Zubamendi shout or the Zankare, as you mentioned, or somebody like that. So it will be interesting to see where we go with that one. Listen, Balogun is the next one we're going to speak about. I think he's going to go, Tom. There's too many rumours around this. Would you sell him for a good price at 40 million, or would you like to see him in an Arsenal shirt playing first team football up top?
I'd love to see him stay. I'd love to see the opportunity given to him and Nketiah instead moved on. That would be, the scenario that I would prefer is that those two were swapped. I think we've seen, plenty of Nketiah. I think I know what I'm going to get when Nketiah comes onto the field or when he's given the opportunity to start. I feel there's a lot more of a ceiling that's higher than that of Nketiah with Balogun. I think his movement is top class. I think his confidence is obviously there. I think his comments he made the other day kind of showed that. I wouldn't say that they bowled me over his comments. I weren't that enthused by the way he spoke about, use some of the words online saying he doesn't really need to try, like he doesn't kind of have to prove himself anymore sort of thing, which is a little bit odd of kind of a comment. But, I get his frustration. And when you're a young striker that scored 20 plus goals in Liga, you've got a right to want to play. And if you're not being guaranteed that, I'm not sure why you would be, thrilled about it, but maybe keep it out the media type thing. When it comes to what will happen, I think he'll go. And if he does, I just hope that we get a very, very good fee. Upwards of £40 million would be great for Folarin Balogun. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, we will, man. If we get that for Partey and Balogun, then maybe we will have enough to go in for Caicedo. Who knows? That's the kind of hope I've got, man. Because I feel that that's the player that we clearly wanted in January, and that was only a few months ago. So we couldn't have completely gone full circle on that one, surely. But we'll have to see what happens, man. Big time. Let's get your thoughts on the new Arsenal away kit. A lot of people saying it looks horrendous. Some people are saying they got with it. Might have to grow on some. I can't lie to you, bro. I loved this year's away kit. It's probably, apart from the one behind me, the bruised banana, it's probably my favourite kit, the black and gold. I thought it was exceptional. I liked the gold kit as well, the Sega one from 2002 when we won a double. But for me, this one, I'm not sure if it's green. I'm not sure if it's yellow. I don't know what patterns it is. I'm not a fan, man. Talk to me.
Yeah, I've been dreading this coming out and being announced because we all know what it was going to look like. We've known what it was going to look like for a long time. You know what sucks? It sucks for me when we see like fans put together concepts of kits that look unbelievably good. And all I'm thinking in my head is if fans and graphic designers can put together kits that look like this, that people would be that are going viral and being retweeted and going all over the socials. Why aren't, I felt like they did pick up on those sorts of concepts with last year's Black Away kit. It looked like a fan concept in ways, like with the AFC effect on it, the black and gold colouring, which is always a fantastic combination, black and bronze kind of colouring. It's always a good combination. But to go from that to this, it's like the Black Away kit is, to my understanding, the best-selling away kit of all time, I believe. And I would not hedge my bets on this being potentially of the last 10 years, because you have to remember, obviously, like it wasn't as widely available globally, kits back in the day, but in the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years, I wouldn't be that, surprised if this is one of the worst selling kits. I went into the Armory in, I think it was March, just before I headed out to Chicago to see if I could take any black kits out there with me to kind of give away in prizes and stuff. And I couldn't get one. Like, you just can't, even if you go to the stadium or whatever, it's not even just ordering online. They didn't have them in stock in the ground. I don't think the Armory is going to be short of these away kits. It's just the color is like, I think they really missed a trick. I think they could have darkened it and become more yellow. I think it could have been maybe a bit more navy in terms of the lines if they were going to go with this design. I love the inspiration, it being kind of meant to be like inspired by a map of Islington. That's great, but it's just not been done. If you were going to do a map of Islington, I would have made the lines far thinner. I would have created it like much more detailed and then subtly, like, how like the AFC was subtle on the black kit, kind of done like a map of Islington style, really subtly with like lines faded into like a yellow, more yellow, like the bruised banana style yellow onto it. I would have done that. I think that would have looked way better. But a lime color is just not. Yeah, it's strange.
Mixed bag for me. There's a lot of comments saying that, they're all right with it. It'll grow on me. Let's get used to it. A lot of people said, there's uproar when the bruised banana one come up.
It looked great.
I don't care what we wear, mate. They can wear what they want if they win the league or the Champions League, or both. Listen, just quickly before we take questions, what are you expecting from this US tour, apart from a load of very excitable, passionate Gooners, which is what we always get over there?
Yeah, they're fantastic. I was out there earlier this year in Chicago for the Southampton game, which wasn't a great result, but it was an amazing finish to that game, which was an incredible place to be when I was surrounded by American Gooners out there. It was fantastic, and they are incredibly passionate. For those that ever have any doubts about, our fans from overseas, you got to get out there and experience it. It's an unbelievable opportunity to be able to do it. I'm looking forward to seeing Reiss. I'm looking forward to seeing Timber. Seeing more of Balogun, of course, hoping that Ødegaard and Trossard's fitness is okay. Seeing Zinchenko, Saliba, Tomiyasu work back to their fault, Martinelli as well, getting back to full fitness. And I think obviously building momentum. Last summer we won all of our official preseason games other than the behind closed door. I think we like lost to like it or drew against Ipswich or something in the behind closed door game. But obviously all the official games, we won them all and we won them well. And that led into a really strong start to the season. So I'm hoping that we can repeat that. We are playing tougher teams. I know the All-Stars isn't necessarily that, but Barcelona, Manchester United, then Monaco in the Emirates Cup, and then Man City in the Community Shield. It's a very tough schedule, if you like. And we're not going to win all those games. Probably not. But I'm just looking forward to seeing an improvement, a gelling of kind of an overhaul of the midfield isn't in particular a key point, and seeing if Havertz as well. I'm excited about Havertz because I'm intrigued by him, and he's a bit of an unknown quantity, I think. So, yeah, very interested to see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're looking forward to seeing new signings. I think we're looking forward to actually getting our football back. I'm always looking out for the youngsters to do well. And the great thing about this team is they're all young. So I want to be seeing Arsenal playing good football. I want to see Arsenal breeding confidence, man, which is what winning does. And that's what I was annoyed about, really, when people say, it's only friendlies. But I actually do want to start winning games because that momentum starts going and it builds you into what I thought was a fantastic preseason last time, 5 wins on the bounce. I think that was a lot down to how we prepared well in preseason. I really do put it down to that. So I'm looking at that. Before we take your questions, and if you do want to throw a question or a super chat, you can do. Make sure you make yourself known by putting a Q at the front so I know it's a question. Make sure you do us a favor. There is well over 400 of you watching live. We haven't even hit 100 likes, Tom. That is shocking. Come on, people. What is happening there? Let's sort this out right now, please. We can easily get up to 200. I only ask for 50% people. Come on. That's all I'm asking for. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you are new, we're so close to 11K. Our next target is 15K. If you can go and do the same over on the Gooner Talk with Tom Canton, he is well on his way to, I think the next target's 55K, Tom, is it?
Yes,
something like that. So He's flying, man. He's flying. Just get me to 11. I'll be nice. That's all I'll say. Don't have to worry about 55. But if you can get me to 11 first, that'd be amazing. But please go and support Tom on the Gooner Talk TV. He's over there every morning at 8 a.m. and most evenings as well, to be fair, with other guests on. So make sure you go and do that, people. Let's get to your questions. Tom, I'm going to fire these at you. Guna Jake says, is Reiss Nelson not better on the left? Off of the left, sorry. In my opinion, his impact is less on the right-hand side. We did mention that earlier, but what's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I think Jake's right. I think he's slightly better on the left. What I would say is that he did come on for Saka in that game against Forest on the right, and scored twice. So, it's not that he can't play off the right. It's kind of the analogy I use. If someone says, do you like waffles? And you say, yes. And then someone turns around and says, what? So you don't like pancakes? It's that type of thing. Just because you like one or prefer one doesn't mean that you don't like something else. And it's the same with this. Like, yes, he's better on the left, I think, but it doesn't mean he's also good on the right. And I think that's the case here.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for your super chat question. Jake, Clock Orange says, Tom, honestly, if the transfer market ended today, do we have enough to challenge Man City?
If it ends, it means obviously Partey stays and Balogun stays, Tierney stays, even Pepe stays. So, I think that the idea of challenging City, well, we did that last season. And the only reason that we didn't challenge City all the way to the end, in my opinion, is because William Saliba got injured. We've brought in Urian Timber, who means that we can either play him or Ben White and use the other as a right back. So we've covered off that issue there. We've improved the midfield by bringing in Declan Rice, and we've given ourselves an extra attacking style outlet in Kai Havertz as well. Everyone's a year older. City have lost some key players as well. It's worth pointing out also, and they're still yet to kind of bring in their Gvardiol as the main guy that they're looking to bring in. So if it ended tomorrow or today, and they've not done the business they need to do, and we've strengthened, yes, I do, based upon what happened last season and based upon what we've done in the market, I'd say we're in a better position now than we were at the end of the season.
Fair play. This one comes in from Arsenal Forever. There is a lot of people in the chat talking about this guy, Tom. Tell me what you know. Do you think we are going to go in for this guy and eye him up?
I don't know. I've personally heard nothing on this, but Sammy Mokbel of the Mail, who's very well connected, has suggested that this is a genuine link, that this is a player that Arsenal have an interest in. It was my understanding that Brighton were very interested in Mohamed Kudus, but they've not moved for him. That deal's not progressed. He had a very good World Cup for Ghana. Really, really impressed. He's played almost exclusively at right wing and centre forwards for Ajax. He can play in multiple positions in the forward line. So interesting player, because if you're looking at that right wing slot and you're thinking we don't have enough depth if Bukayo Saka's gone, well, I think Kudus comes in and adds certainly depth to that position. I also think if Balogun was to leave as well, you get depth at centre forward with Kudus coming in also. So I would be very, excited by this signing if it was to happen. I think he's got one of the best non-penalty XGs and goal records for like the outside the top 5 leagues. Just checking the stats now. He does indeed. He's in the 98th and 99th percentile for those, and 99th for pass completion for attacking midfielders and wingers as well. He comes out really, really well. If you look at him just in forwards, he's in all the 90th percentiles in terms of his passing and in terms of some defensive attributes as well. He's 95th percentile for tackles against other forwards in those similar competitions like the Eredivisie. So I think he has a lot of the attributes that Arteta likes in a forward player, which is high energy, commitment defensively with his duties in that sense as well. So it would make sense why we were interested in him. Can I see it happening? Yeah, I could see it happening. If Balogun leaves, then you got 40 million odd quid to spend. Why not add a Kudus? I think that'd be a great option.
Yeah, I like the player. Not so sure I see him as a holding midfielder, but perhaps I'm wrong.
No.
Perhaps he could do that job.
No,
I don't know. There we go. So I'll be very surprised if he comes in to replace Thomas Partey, because a lot of the attributes I see are much more forward thinking. But good to see that we're linked with these sort of players, though, Tom. Let's be real. It is good to see that we're linked with these exciting talents. This next one, how much should we sell Partey for, if at all, or if needed, and who should replace him?
If we can get upwards of £40 million, brilliant. Who should replace him? It's Declan Rice is the answer. Who replaces him? Who should you then bring in midfield? I mean, if you can get Lavia, go and get Lavia. If you can bring in someone like Ibrahim Sangara, maybe bring someone like that in. But there's not loads of options, which kind of leads into the argument of maybe keep Partey for another year and then sell it after this season. Maybe the market will open up a bit more in 24.
Maybe. This is coming from a red one. It says, do you think any youth players from the academy will get any minutes or appearances this season? We've already seen Kozia Dubry and Ethan Nwaneri get some minutes. To be fair, even last year in some of the friendlies, we saw that as well. What do you expect this year, mate?
Yeah, I think in the League Cup, I think if we get some, really good draws in the early rounds, like lower league opposition, I think you'll probably see some of those youth players called up and brought in and given chances. I don't think I think it'll come. We're probably going back towards the days of Arsene Wenger. If you remember when we were in the Champions League, you would see players like Nico Ionaris, given chances in the League
Wow.
Cup.
Rolling back the
So,
years there, mate.
I know, yeah. So I think that's the type of when we go back into the Champions League. I know people don't want to dismiss a cup like the League Cup because it is a cup, but when you're in the Champions League, that cup takes even less, precedent. And in a really competitive Premier League, I think that's where you'll see a lot of rotation if the draw is relatively kind. But yeah, I think you might see Nwaneri and Miles Lewis-Skelly or Kozia Dubry maybe getting a few minutes here and there in those tournaments. Yeah.
Fair play, man. Harvey, big up yourself. Says, Tom, any news about any interest in Sambi Lokonga?
Burnley are interested, but there's been no movement yet. So it's not. He's also injured at the moment. So that's a bit of a problem. That could delay any potential moves. He has to get back fit. So, but there is interest. Burnley are one of those clubs. I think there's interest from France as well, but it's pretty quiet still at the moment while he's injured.
Fair play, man. This one comes in from Mal, who says, my favourite duo. Big up, thank you. Always insightful. Would you guys take Mane or Mahrez for their experience in the Champions League? I'm worried about prospects when we had the huge demands of Champions League and Premier League. Well, it looks like Mane, I've heard today, is around 27 million and Mahrez around 30. I'd take them both. We're not going to sign them both. We're not going to sign either. But I would love them. I think they're both outstanding footballers, and I think they always have been. I said on the show last night, I honestly believe that if you looked at Premier League greats in the position of right wing, Mahrez would be right up there with some of the greats. I honestly believe that. I think you look at what he's won in the game and how great he is technically on the ball. For me, he's a player I have a lot of time for, and I would absolutely snap him up if he was available for 30 million. But Manchester City are not going to sell him. I believe these two will probably go over to Saudi, Tom. But what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they probably will as well. I don't know why either of them would make the switch to Arsenal because they're not. Well, I know we take them, but I don't think they start for us. Saka starts on the right over Mahrez, and I wouldn't start Mane over Martinelli. I think Mane had a really disappointing season last year for Bayern. I'm not Mane's biggest fan either. Some of his antics, especially against us, haven't really endeared me towards him, if you like. That's not to say that I've not wanted players like Diego Costa at Arsenal in the past, because I have. But there's just something about Mane I'm not too keen on. And, again, if you're going to invest 25 plus million quid, 30 million pounds in those players, you have to accept that you're going to get no return on that investment at all. So I think I'd rather a Kudus come in who can play across the front three, or specifically more so on the right centre forward, than either of those two.
Be interesting one, won't it, to see what happens with those two, but I can see it going over there. I don't believe it will be anywhere else. This is a really interesting one from Wade, who says, Tom, what role do you see Tierney playing in the team next year? Left centre-back or left-back like Ben White does on the right-hand side? What do you think, mate?
He'll be left back at Newcastle. That's what
yeah, he could be, man.
I don't think he's going to... I think he should leave if I was him, and that's me taking my Arsenal hat off. I mean, if we can keep him because he's an asset. But I just don't know why he would stay. I don't know why he would choose to stay if there's an option to leave, because Arsenal have got, Zinchenko ahead of him. Kivior looks like he's ahead of him. Tomiyasu has been used ahead of him. We have three left backs. Even if Tierney was to leave, I wouldn't replace him either. I don't think we have a need to replace him if he was to go. I just don't think we play with that style of fullback anymore. I think we play with a different style of... It's a strange one, is Tierney. I think his role, if he stays, will be coming off the bench to give us maybe a bit more going forwards if we need that type of left back coming on. rotation, obviously, as well. Maybe if you use a Timber at right-sided centre-back, maybe you can balance that with a Tierney potentially, maybe. So it's tough, though. I don't see where his place is in the team. It's really difficult to see it.
Yeah, it is. I love Kieran Tierney. I don't want him to
Me
go
too.
at all. I think he's a top talent. Love him. Love everything about his personality and he was a player and a person. But I kind of agree. Arteta's made it very clear that he's going to be playing people ahead of him. Tomiyasu, Zinchenko, and now Kyrgios. It's crazy. It really is. I don't know what this guy has done wrong. Perhaps he hasn't done anything wrong. Perhaps he just doesn't suit the style of what Mikel Arteta wants to play moving forward. So it would be a strange one to keep Kieran Tierney if you're not going to play him and use him as a fourth choice left back. But I would be surprised if we do keep him that would be the case, if that makes any sense. Let's take a last few questions. We're going to go here, which is from Glenn. Didn't Arsenal put out a statement in January? If they'd gotten Caicedo, it wouldn't have stopped them getting Reiss. I don't know. That's news to me. That's news
to me. I don't think Arsenal have ever put out that statement. I think there was reports suggesting that Arsenal were interested in both players, but that's very different to saying if we get one, it doesn't stop us getting the other. And I think that was kind of proved this summer because we've not made any attempt at Caicedo at all this summer. So,
interesting.
I don't think that was ever.
No, very, very interesting. Where some people hear these statements from, please let me know because that's not one that I've heard. So let's bring this up from Hilton, who says, "Would you take Palhinha or Renato Sanchez to bolster the midfield?" I think West Ham are trying to go for Palhinha, but they've received 105 million and thought they only want to part with 40 million for Palhinha, which they're not going to get him for. What's your thoughts on him, actually? Because I like I'm not so sure on Renato Sanchez. I think that's a player that was supposed to be hyped up, and he's not for me. But Palhinha, I really like him, actually.
Yeah, Renato Sanchez is a FIFA player's dream, but he's not a reality signing, I'm afraid. He did quite well at Lille, but it's a solid no on him. Palhinha is, very good. One of the most easily misspelled players. There's no U, I'm pretty sure, in Palhinha's name. But I see everyone when they talk about him call him Palhinha. Like, do you remember Paulinho? He used to play for Spurs.
Spurs, yeah.
Yeah, everyone calls him Paulinho, but it's just Palhinha. But yeah, he's very good, done very well, was excellent at Sporting, has done really well at Fulham. Arsenal aren't going to get him for anything less than 60 million quid, though. I think Fulham will hold out for a very big fee. And at 20, what is he, 28? Is he?
Is he that old?
Yeah, he's 28. And he's just turned 28. He turned 28 on 9th of July. So, again, he's in his peak year. He's, I don't think it's necessarily one. If you get him for like 30 million, great, but you're not. So 60 million quid on Palhinha is just not going to happen.
Yeah, fair play, man. Let's bring this in from Drew, who says, Dan and Tom, do you think we need a goalkeeper, or are you both happy with Turner as backup? I would rather, and I think me and you disagree on this, Tom, I would rather we upgraded on Matt Turner because I just haven't seen enough to give me the quality or the confidence that he has the quality to be nothing short of a huge drop-off to Aaron Ramsdale. But perhaps you think differently, Tom. What do you think on this one?
The only reason is that I just ask who are we going to sign that's going to be better than Turner
It's a
and
great
that's going to
point.
want to be a backup to Ramsdale? Because most goalkeepers, I think Turner's a decent goalkeeper, and I think he's getting better all the time. I think he had a great World Cup. He had a great Gold Cup as well recently this summer. And I think he's only got better every time he's gone and pulled on an Arsenal shirt. I just don't know who you buy that's much better than him and is happy to just sit behind Aaron Ramsdale. I guess you could go the other direction in terms of age and bring in like how some big clubs come and buy like 30-plus-year-old goalkeepers that have kind of had a
that's
career.
My route. That's probably my answer to your question.
Yeah, I guess but I guess who? Do you know?
The one I went for is not going to happen because he's really happy at the club, and that the reason he's moved everyone out there is because of his family, I believe. But I would probably have gone for somebody like Kasper Schmeichel. who is a Premier League winning goalkeeper, Premier League proven goalkeeper, 35 or 36, I think. So he's not going to be around forever, but goalkeepers can go to the late 30s. And that would be the one I would look at. Other than him, I really don't know, Tom. Probably the most difficult signing. Sorry, probably one of the most difficult positions to sign. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. 100%.
So listen, saying that, I pray and hope that Ramsdale does not get injured. But if he does, and we are using another goalkeeper, I hope Matt Turner continues to improve. I don't think he's a shocking goalkeeper. I've just not seen enough for me to say that this guy is absolutely superb. But
by the way, Brighton want him as their number one.
Oh, really?
So that gives you an interesting insight. They believe he could be a potential number one for them.
Fair play. This one's coming from Noonan. I wanted to ask you this one actually as my kind of question. Ivan Toney, still need a goal scoring forward. Gives us a plan B, all round centre forward, but has some problems at the moment off the pitch. Not available until January. He's training on his own because I believe he's not allowed to train. I don't know if you know this, Tom. Can anyone bid for him?
You're not allowed, he's not allowed to take part in any footballing activity. So I don't know. I don't think anything would stop him from moving clubs.
No,
unless registering for another club counts as, I honestly, I don't know is the answer. I wouldn't be able to give you like a certain answer whether or not I would stop him. Also, people seem to think he's then going to be available for like really cheap in January. Like he's still Ivan Toney. Like, he's still, Brentford are still going to want to use him, next season. So I don't know. I'm not his biggest fan. And this is before by the way, the betting stuff, came out. Some of the things he's done on social media, some of the things he's said about Brentford in what I assume to be allegedly an intoxicated state aren't great. So I've always had a question mark about his personality. The betting side of things is kind of a separate conversation because I think I saw suggestions that there was, an addiction involved in this, which is, something I hope that he gets the help that he needs. And, from an Arsenal perspective, we've had former players that have fallen into those and we know how damaging and detrimental they can be to people's lives. The side of what we would do, I just think there are better options and probably less risky options in terms of an investment of that caliber to move for.
Well, listen, that's a nice segue into Wilson's question. Big up, Wilson. Says, which strikers should Arsenal be signing and why? I honestly do believe that we are in for a forward player. Whether that's going to be an out-and-out centre forward or a right forward, I don't really know. But I do feel like we're going to be sniffing around some options. So what's your thoughts on this one, bro?
Yes, it is interesting, especially with these Kudus links, because he can play at centre forwards. If Arsenal had the money, which is the big thing about strikers, because I think the only strikers that are really for big money, and I just don't think Arsenal have that money. If we did, hypothetically, I'd be looking at, obviously Osimhen is the obvious choice, but you're going to have to spend huge, like
180 million.
More than we spent on Declan Rice to get Osimhen in. The other one is Randall Kolo Muani, who I really like, who's at Frankfurt, and I like Gonzalo Ramos as well, who's at Benfica. So they're kind of the centre forwards. There is one more that always skips my mind that people.
Vlahovic.
Yeah, I'm not. No. Gabriel Jesus scored more league goals than him last season. He was missing for a third of the season, so I'm not. He had
such a bad time at Juventus, didn't he?
I'm not sure he's the style as well that Arsenal are looking for in terms of a centre forward. I know that people are really like the idea of bringing in, a plan B-esque with someone who's more physical and got more height to them. I think we may have that if we chose to use Kai Havertz as a centre forward at times. I think he'll add verticality to this team as well. I know that Man United are after Rasmus Højlund from Atalanta. I think that's a risk. He's had one good season in Serie A, and I say good. He's a good season.
8 goals
in Serie A. Yeah, I don't think he got into double digits in Serie A.
No.
He did across, obviously, all competitions. Then he had a good season for Sturm Graz, I think, the season before that in Austria. Played to Erling Haaland, playing in Austria, then moving to an elite league, playing for a team that are up there competing for European places like Atalanta. So it's interesting. I think you might see him. I would have been intrigued if Arsenal could get him for like 30 to 40 million. But it seems that Atalanta wants something like 70 odd million quid for him, which I'm just not sure he's worth. So yeah, it's a question.
It looks like he's going to go to Man United anyway because they've kind of agreed personal terms or whatever. This one comes in from Mohammed. He said, would you like to have Ward-Prowse in your midfield? He's played 400 plus matches in the Premier League. Your thoughts? He can play both as a 6 and an 8. Not for me, but Tom, go on.
Yeah, I tell you what,
I like him.
Yeah, I like him as well. I'm just not sure whether he's enough. You know, there's a lot of goals to him in set pieces. There's a lot of asset to him in set pieces. If you take away the set pieces, and we don't get loads, like we never got as many as Southampton's game plan was trying to get set pieces basically because James Ward-Prowse is so good at them. We don't tend to get loads. You know, we don't tend to get the free kicks on the outside of the box. We don't. You know, I just don't think that it's worth the money, and he's not going to start. So if your plan is to use him and get loads of set pieces, he's not going to be on the pitch to use for them anyway. No. And I think Southampton would ask for another significant fee. I just think there are better, more mobile, dynamic midfielders that I'd prefer over him.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Another midfield player that is being asked by Gooners85 says, Dan, would you take Everton's Onana, or do you think that we could get somebody better? You cannot get somebody better than Onana. I will be disappointed. Not saying that Onana's a shocking player, because I actually quite like him. I think he's done very well at Everton. But I do feel that we could get in a Caicedo. I'd rather have a Caicedo. I'd rather have a Lavia, agreed, if I'm honest. Onana would probably be the bracket after that, if I'm honest. So we'll see. But weren't we interested in Tom when he was linked with a rumour to go to West Ham or Everton? Weren't we one of the sides?
We were interested in him at Lille,
Yeah, there we go. I thought we were. I didn't think I was making that up. Last 3 questions of the night. A couple of these are going to be a bit wild ones, Tom. So I hope you're ready for them. Let's go with this one. From Wilson, who are likely to be Manchester City's closest title challengers and why?
Us, because, you know, we were the challengers last season. We've strengthened our squad this season. And also I think that Liverpool are going to be back up there again this year. It's still not a guarantee. Europa League football is taxing. It's really taxing. It's not great. So we managed to obviously fall out of that competition relatively early in the knockout stage, which I think, you know, was a bit of a benefit in the end, maybe. But Chelsea are just a bit of a question mark. Man United, I still don't know about Man United. It's just a bit of a tricky one. Newcastle, I think I'm disappointed with their window actually so far. I thought they might have done more than they've done so far. We'll be in the top 4 again this season. But I think from an Arsenal perspective, we are the nearest and have got nearer to City based upon this window.
Fair play. I'm going to agree with you. If the window goes the way I'm expecting both Arsenal and Liverpool to challenge Manchester City. I am. I do think Liverpool will sort their midfield out, and I do think they'll get another centre-half, and I think they've got everything else. I think with Arsenal, I do think that we're going to complete what I think will be one of our best ever transfer windows. I don't think we're done yet. We are going to see outgoings, in my opinion, before our incomings, and I think it really is a potential 3-horse race. I'm going to go Man City just because I'd be foolish not to go Man City. But I will say that there will be a title challenge this season. I don't think Man City will fly ahead for like 15, 20 points. I don't think it'll be anything like that. So that's my opinion. Big up Wilson for that one. Okay, I'll ask these 2 last ones. What one should I go with first? Okay, well, this is kind of a segue from this one. What are your expectations for the upcoming season? I think this is a good question, actually, Tom.
We've gone over the words expectations, you know, a lot, haven't we? I think, you know, my aim is obviously for Arsenal to try and win, you know, win a trophy, win the league, win the Champions League. That's got to be the aim. That's always got to be our aim is to win. But as I've said, when the favourite for every single competition is another team, I don't think you can expect overachievement. I think you have to expect what is realistic, and based upon what's realistic for Arsenal. If Man City or Real Madrid are knocked out of the Champions League, you know, Bayern Munich as well, then I think Arsenal have got a great chance of going as far as possible in that competition. If Man City fall off in the Premier League, you know, we should be trying to be there winning it. If Man City are knocked out of the FA Cup in an early round, not by us, we should be thinking, yeah, we should be trying to win that competition. But Man City are the barrier. They are the obstacle. And to me, they are the favourite for every single competition they enter. So the expectation for me is to continue to progress. The aim for me is to win, win trophies.
Yeah, I think this is a circumstance thing for me as well, because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, if you don't win a trophy, is Arteta got to go? If you don't win a Premier League, is Arteta got to go?" And all this. Listen, if we have a similar season to the one we've just had, there'll be pressure on the manager for sure. Finishing trophyless and bottling another title or whatever the hell we want to call it, there's going to be pressure on him, 100%. The expectation for me, the aim for me, I'm with you, Tom. The aim is to win every competition you enter. The expectation for me is to win a trophy, to go deep into the Champions League, and to get a title challenge and a title push with Manchester City and get close as we can to them, because they're a fantastic side. So I don't expect to do a quadruple. I don't expect to do a treble. I don't even expect to do a double, but I do expect to lift a trophy this season, because I think that we have to. I think this team deserves to win something, end the trophy drought, make sure that we get the team lifted, and go on to even more success. And that's what I am expecting this season. So hopefully I've answered that one. Let's come to this last question, because this is a great question, but I don't know how either of us are going to answer this one. I suppose we've done this in our heads before. I suppose we've had the dream of what this looks like in our heads. But Arsenal Forever has asked this a few times, and I was like, "Do I ask this? Do I answer this one? Let's go for it." Arsenal Forever has said, "What realistic outgoings and incomings would you like to see for this window, so that it's a 10 out of 10 window?" Tom, would you like to go first?
It's a good question. Like, what defines a perfect window for Arsenal? I think there's obviously multiple routes. I think one route is if Partey stays, and another route is if Partey doesn't stay. Yeah.
Yep.
Partey stays, I think you're on, and you've got Partey and Reiss and Havertz and Jorginho and, the other options that we got in midfield. Add potentially a Kudus to that, who, as I say, can give really good competition to Saka and options at centre forwards. I'd like to see, even if Partey stayed, in a way, there's part of me that would like to see another midfielder come in, by moving out Lokonga, obviously moving out Tavares, moving out some of the other players as well that we talked about, Pepe, etc. All of those guys. And by the way, I'm saying Kudus to come in if indeed Balogun goes, I think is another one you say. I'd also say if you can keep Balogun and move out Nketiah, that would be great. I think that would be a 10 out of 10. Move towards that 10 out of 10. It's weird because I don't think we're that far off a 10 out of 10 window. I only think we're a few things away, and obviously all the outgoings, which I know is a big thing. If we move out all the players we need to move out and keep the players I think we should keep, and maybe add a Kudus to that, I really don't think we're that realistically, because we could all say I want Caicedo, but I don't think Caicedo is realistic. To spend £100 million on another midfielder, I just don't think it is. So I don't think we're that far off it. I think our window right now is about an 8 out of 10, and that depends, and that could drop if Partey leaves, because then it goes down to a 7.
That's my thinking.
And then if you sign a good midfielder to bring it, you can bring it back up to an 8. If you add a Kudus, if you then see what happens with Balogun, I think you're getting very close, to that perfect 10.
Listen, I'll start with the outgoings. I think we need to get rid of Runnison, Cedric, Holding, Tavares,
Always forget about Runnison.
Yeah, Runnison, Lokonga, Pepe, I believe, Eddie, I think, also Fabio Vieira. A lot of people say that's harsh. That's harsh. I would move him on.
I don't think he's the guy. Think he should go. Yeah.
That's my outgoings. In terms of my incomings, and this is the 10 out of 10 window, but I also have to keep it realistic. I can't be going for Mbappe and Osimhen as much as I'd like them both. I am going to go with Caicedo because I don't think the door's shut on that one yet. Lavia as well, because I think Partey's going.
Both of them.
Yeah. I think Partey's going.
Add the champagne and the caviar to my shopping
I know,
trolley.
man. Yeah, lobster, caviar. Yeah. I'm going to go with a right winger. Either Moussa Diaby or Elise, one of those, and then a centre forward as well, which I think you mentioned, Tom, was a great one. Was Ramos? I think he's a top talent. I really, really like him, man. So that would be my 10 out of 10 dream window. But we're talking dreams here.
That's 11 out of 10.
We have to, that's 11 or 12 out of 10. So, but that's me, man. You know me, Tom. I'm greedy. But realistically, I reckon we're probably 3 signings. I think we've got to come in. I'm going to be that optimistic. I do think we've got 3 to come in because I think we're going to have to get rid of a few. We're not going to get a lot, but that for me is when Arsenal, that window will shut and Arsenal, everybody actually, not just Arsenal fans, all fans will go, okay, Arsenal's serious. Arsenal serious. And that's what I want to be hearing. I want to be here. I don't want to be hearing, oh, if Arsenal would have just bought a forward, they might have actually competed with Man City. I don't want any of that stuff. I want it all to be, right, no more excuses. Let's do it, Mikel. Let's go win us a league. Let's go win us a Champions League. Let's go win us a trophy, whatever it be, right? That's what I need to be happening. Tom, we're going to wrap it up there. Absolute legend. Love having you on, my friend. Make sure you shout out what you're up to, mate, and plug your stuff because your channel's wicked, man.
Bro, it's always a pleasure to come on and chat with you. I'm glad it worked out today to do it. But yeah, make sure if you haven't subscribed to Dan, make sure that you do. But you can find me on the Gooner Talk always. You can find my written work at football.london. And next month we're going to be doing a live show in London as well. So if you're based in London, come along. I'm hoping that Dan, you're going to come along if you're free. It'd be great to see you there. But if indeed you're free, people, come along. You can find a link to tickets on the Gooner Talk. Any description of one of the recent Gooner Talk videos, you'll see it there. So there you go.
Great stuff, man. I will absolutely be there, and you guys need to make sure you will be there as well. It's going to be a great event, and it's great now that we can do this stuff. It's coming off the back of COVID, making sure that we can do face-to-face stuff again, Tom. So it's absolutely brilliant. I'm more than happy that that's happening. Listen, people, make sure you do me a favor. There's still well over 500 of you here. Let's get these likes up, people. Come on, let's get these likes up. We've not even hit 200. Come on, what's happening? Let's make sure that we could do that, please, and subscribe to myself and to Tom, of course. We'll be back tomorrow evening. I've got a bit of a special show tomorrow. I'm not going to say anything more than that. It's a debate show, and it's going to be lit. So make sure that you're all over there. You're going to be seeing all the regulars that you know from this channel on tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. So make sure you're there for that one. Set a reminder, people. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, and the notification bell so you don't miss that one. Because trust me, tomorrow you do not want to miss. Tom, my pleasure. Absolutely legendary having you on. Big up everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for all your questions. Thank you for the likes you're about to hit on the way out. We'll see you next time, and up the Arsenal. Take care, people.